Welcome to Unlocking High Performance, a podcast for leaders who refuse to choose between getting results and taking care of their people. I'm Jason Lauritsen, and for more than 20 years, I've been helping leaders build organizations that grow by putting people first. Now, today we're going to tackle the question, what do you do when you feel stuck? And this is a personal one for me because I've spent the last year trying to get unstuck. It's been a challenging, frustrating, humbling journey. And I want to share my story with you today because I suspect you have felt this exact same thing at least once. Maybe you're feeling it right now. And because of that, I wanted to share my journey, but I'm also going to share what I have found personally helpful in trying to get myself unstuck in case it might be helpful for you as well. So here's what's happened for me. About a year ago, I would say, give or take, I took a retreat, as I often do. I take usually one or two kind of personal retreats, take a few days and step back kind of by myself to take a look at the business, really think about past year's progress, think about goals and kind of what I want to accomplish going forward, check in with myself, check in really on the sort of health and the impact we're having as a business. And, you know, as I was going through the process last year, I kind of had to face this realization that it felt like my business was kind of caught in this like loop. Felt a little bit like Groundhog's Day because every year, you know, I sort of would start the year with grand ambitions about sort of the things that I wanted to accomplish, you know, sort of I'd set growth plans. I'd set sort of some, goals, I guess, about how I wanted to, what kind of impact I wanted to have, both sort of on our clients, the people we work with directly, but also just kind of on the world and the world of work more broadly. And regardless of how ambitious those plans were or what process I used to create those plans, I kept finding myself kind of back in the same spot at the end of every year. And it felt like I was kind of starting over at the end of every year. So, you know, I'd start out the year, big ambitions, big plans. We'd go through the year. We might have a decent year. We do a lot of interesting work. But then at the end of the year, it's like, wait a minute, didn't hit many of those goals, kind of had a similar year to what we had the year before. Maybe we grew a little bit, maybe we didn't. But it felt like I was back to kind of starting from where I started the previous year. And it wasn't that the business was necessarily broken or that the work wasn't having impact. It was just that even though the business had done well for several years, it wasn't moving forward. I couldn't kind of jump us forward in the way that I really wanted to. And I knew that we and I weren't having the impact that I wanted to have. And it didn't seem to matter what I tried because everything I tried didn't seem to be the answer. And so I realized I was stuck and I needed to do something about it. And so last year, about this time, I made the decision and the commitment to myself and to the business to get unstuck, right? I realized that if I was going to pursue my vision, if I was going to have the kind of impact that I wanted us to have on, you know, sort of the making work better broadly, but just more directly for our clients and helping them kind of, you know, realize the impact that they often come to us for, some things had to change. And so over the course of the past year, I've taken a bunch of steps to really reinvent my business. And the interesting thing, I guess, or maybe the inconvenient thing for me about that is that for the kind of work that I do, that also meant reinventing myself in a lot of ways. It's not like I am kind of intertwined with my business and my business is me. And so as I'm reinventing the business, there was some very real inner work and learning and change and growth that I had to make. And I can tell you that it has been a lot harder than I expected. Because what I didn't account for was that when I kind of stepped forward and realized we need to get unstuck and we started reinventing the business, is that we were changing a lot of things. I was changing a lot of things. It maybe was sort of work that was still grounded in, it was the same kind of work. It was coming from the same kind of place, but we were going to, position the work differently. We were going to offer different solutions, different services. The way we told our story was going to evolve and change and grow. And, if you followed my work over the last year, you've probably felt that. And, one of the consequences of that was that, as you sell something different, and even what we were selling it was a little bit different kind of partnership with our clients. It's a little bit more in-depth. It's staying with them and doing longer work, which takes longer to sell, and it takes longer. You have to be better at telling that story. And I guess the big realization for me was that I was going from kind of, I had an established business that I've been running a particular way, offering a particular thing for quite a while. And then I was going to jump to this kind of new place, and I didn't account for the middle. I didn't sort of process through the fact that getting from where I was to where I was going was in essence kind of becoming a startup again. And that was far more challenging than I accounted for. And that's where a lot of the growth had to come for me, is because it required me, when you're starting up something different, as the CEO, as the founder, as the person, kind of the face of the business, that means I have to show up differently. I have to be different. And that was a lot of work that I needed to do. And the reality was it didn't go smooth all the time. I mean, frankly, the evolution has been challenging because I've had to relearn how to tell a story. It's a different kind of story. It is absolutely the story that we need to tell about the work that needs to be done, but I haven't been great at selling it. I'm getting better, but it's taken me a long time to kind of figure that out. And it's frustrating because, I've been doing this a long time, and to be confronted with like you're going through this change, going through this sort of required transformation, called on me to let go of a lot of old stuff, try to learn some new skills and show up in new stuff. And it hasn't gone as quickly as I wanted it to. And the results haven't always been great. It's been slow, and it's had some real cost for me and for the business in terms of revenue and opportunity in the short run. And so we're getting through it. We're coming through it. We're making, we're coming out of the stuckness. But I can tell you that this journey has been longer and more challenging than I ever could have imagined. And so why am I sharing this with you? I'm sharing it because, it's real and I'm in it. And I'm sharing it because so often I encounter people who are stuck. They're stuck in so many different ways. Maybe they're stuck in their role. Maybe they're, leading a team or an organization that's stuck. Maybe they're stuck in a relationship. Maybe they're stuck, in the fact that maybe they're in a career that they don't love anymore. They're stuck. I've just encountered so many people that are stuck. And I understand this isn't the first time I've been stuck. It probably won't be the last time I'm stuck, but this is a very real journey that I'm on. And I just wanted to, I guess, share the story as a reminder that sometimes getting unstuck, depending on how stuck you are, it can take some time and some pretty significant effort to get through it. At least that's certainly been true for me on this one. And So I wanted to, number one, I guess, share the story, but I also want to share with you kind of the two big things that I have learned on this particular journey of moving from stuck to unstuck, because perhaps this will be helpful for you. So the first lesson, and this is probably the biggest one, and I am disappointed, I guess, in myself on some level that I keep having to relearn this lesson. But it's that I couldn't do this alone. Like I couldn't get unstuck by myself. I had gotten myself stuck on my own. We tend to be pretty good at that. Didn't happen overnight. It took a while, but I'd gotten myself pretty stuck. And I had kind of the realization a year ago that, like, if I knew how to fix this, I would have already have done it. And so I needed help. And that the kind of help that I needed there was a lot of different kinds of help that were important. I think one of the big things early on and then throughout this journey has been that, when you're stuck, you need people to help you sort of see the places that you're stuck and help show you the pathway out, because oftentimes you can't see those things. I mean, after all, we get ourselves stuck, and it's not usually that we decide it, it sort of happens, and we make a bunch of decisions, and along the way we almost take and make ourselves more stuck sometimes because we keep doubling down on things. And there are times when you need multiple someones who can sort of look at your situation or look at what you're doing and tell you the truth, about what's working and what's not, and not worry about hurting your feelings, not worry about, how much effort you've put into it, but just someone who sort of will recognize what you're trying to accomplish and reflect back to you how what you're doing is either moving you towards that or not. So you need people, or at least I did. I had to find people who could tell me the truth and who would really help me kind of see my situation more clearly. So that was one way that I needed other people. I also learned that I needed to pay closer attention to the voices and the people who care the most about the business and about our work. My partner, Linda, had been sort of trying to sort of send signals to me or tell me things that felt off to her during this journey as I've been working to get myself unstuck and to kind of help the business get the business moving forward. She could see it and sent some things, and she tried to tell me some things that I just couldn't hear. I was so stuck, and I was just not. I was, sort of explaining and rationalizing away some things, even in the midst of the journey, that I really needed to pay closer attention to her voice and others who really cared about the business and it being successful and cared about me and my impact. And I need to hear those voices. So that was number two. Those people, really important, pay close attention. And then number three, and this is kind of the great irony for me, is that I had kind of a realization that, even though, I'm a person that's paid for expertise and paid for advice and paid for guidance in my domain of expertise, it sort of occurred to me that, like, the reason people come to me for that is because they are kind of in their own way stuck, right? They're in a situation where they know they want to do something different with their business. They don't know how to get there. They need somebody to help them figure it out, to help them see themselves clearly, to give them the guidance, the advice, the support, the services, whatever it is, to get them from where they are to where they want to go. And I realized that for my situation, like, if I knew how to solve this, I would have already solved it. If I had the skills to do it, I would have already done it. The reason I kept cycling back in a loop was because I didn't know. And so I had this realization, like, I need to go find some external expertise, some people that know how to do this, that understand this particular challenge, that can help me get unstuck, help me break out of this loop so that we could start moving forward. So, there were people that can tell me the truth and give me feedback. It's really listening to the people that care the most when they're trying to send you signals and sort of help you. And then the third part is, finding when you need it, finding the right guides or advisors or, whatever it is, coaches that can help you move forward. So those were the things that were really important to me. So that was all sort of lesson one, is that it requires help from others, requires others to get this done. And then the second one is really, if you're like me trying to get unstuck, give yourself some grace, because this has been hard. Professionally, this has been one of the harder challenges I've had to try to navigate through. And, especially when you're reinventing the business, I'm trying to reinvent and level up myself. It feels like there's a lot of days where you feel like you're making progress, and then you'll have a day that just knocks you backwards. And when you're going through changes, I think it's really it's understanding, or when you're making a transformation, or you're trying to level up, or you're trying to get yourself unstuck, that means you're going to have to do things that are new. You're going to have to try things. You're going to have to push yourself in different ways. You're going to have to get uncomfortable, and you're not going to get those things right at the beginning. I know I certainly haven't. And I have had important things that didn't go as well as they should have, that, really are hard to swallow in hindsight, but I've had to learn to really give myself some grace, right? Cut myself some slack and recognize that I'm working really hard, and that what I'm trying to do is also hard, and that, regardless of what transformation you're going through, I listed all these ways that I find people stuck. Regardless of what it is, the path from where you are to where you want to go probably requires some pretty challenging steps and some things that are going to be uncomfortable, and the things that maybe you aren't great at. I mean, because the reality is, again, like me, if you already were, you'd already be through it. And so as you step into it, just know you're not going to get everything right at first. But the key is keep learning, right? When you do have that day that knocks you backwards, when you do have a fail, keep learning and building on it, and keep going. I know that's what's kept me going over this last year. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope that maybe if you are stuck, this will give you some, some energy or reinforcement to keep going, because you can get there. You're not alone, and it's not permanent. There is a path forward from stuck. It'll probably be hard, but it'll definitely be worth it. You've got this. Until next time.